Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the ravens?
Lovely. Hold that pose.
That was odd. Bernardo had been here, at this exact place, at this exact time. This time, there were so many more ravens.
Bernardo checked to make sure his sword was still working. Yep.
Ooh, Renato loved to improve his gear.
Look, it's not personal, but those look terrible.
Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lapino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lapino. Well, unless he really was a traitor, obviously. Then they'd probably pin a medal on his chest.
I think this is yours, said Renato.
But he couldn't hear his enemy dancing. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Bernardo recognized the cards. It was Lapino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, yeah, we see this guard owed me 53 ducats, so we made a deal. They're very reasonable people, actually, for weasels. Now, I got a brilliant plan to kidnap Zenobia. We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows, and that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. To make the Sky Ripper, the Transcendent Emperor had wrapped an armature around the eye of a god. Bernardo had already let that armature slip away to save Lupino's life. But even its core, the eye torn from a god, surely they could fashion a great weapon from that. The core of the Sky Ripper? Lupino's excited. That's an actual thing that we could just go and get. You've been busy. He sure had. Bernardo told him all the things he'd been up to. Soon they got to talking about old times, about wages they'd won and lost, and scrapes they'd barely got out of. It was good to be back with his friend. Bernardo grinned. He had a very good feeling about this. It's beautiful here, thought Bernardo. It was nice to be back with his old war buddy. All right. Lupino was a traitor. But still, it was good company. You know, ore is pretty heavy to carry. You know what's not? A new sword. Ah, Zenobia. Now that he knew she still loved him, he wanted to go back to her. But that hadn't worked out, had it? Maybe it was time to find the core of the Sky Ripper.
A chest full of old banana peels. There had to be more. There was.
Lead Raven. This one looked familiar. Had he lost this one in a card game? Welcome back, he thought. He was practically sure he'd find something useful in one of these things. There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. You almost never saw wild gogglers together like this. The toads had to train them not to peck each other to death. So these had to be imperial gogglers. That meant ravens were up ahead. What were these poles exactly? Parking meters from the time of the lost gods? Bernardo felt wrong all over. He could feel an almost palpable sickness in the air. And if the land could have tumors, they would look like these monstrous crystals. The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, but few birds, if you didn't count the ravens. Bernardo smelled sick animals and dying ones, but no healthy ones. And getting a bad feeling about this, Bernardo thought. Maybe Lupino was right. Maybe they should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here. Bernardo hoped his portal had been inspected recently. The thing about puzzles was, once you solved one, you knew how to solve it again. Puzzles had no, what was the word? Replayability? Bernardo wondered if you could design a puzzle that would be different every time you played with it. Wouldn't that be fun? Nice. That could be useful.
going spectacularly well, thought Renato.
As he held the radiant icosahedron, Renato felt queasy, like dozens of tiny worms were nibbling his insides. It wasn't healthy to be so close to the eye of a god. How could he use it? He could take it to the observatory. The scientists there could tell him how to harness its ancient power. But honestly, Renato ached to get away from it. He brought the core back with him to the Farfarer. But honestly, Renato ached to be rid of it.
Tell you what, said Lupino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost.
The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Renato. But what if this was a ruse so that Lupino could get the core into the hands of the Empire? Was Renato ready to take that risk? Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself.
Trust me, Renato, you won't regret this. I'll treat the core like it was my own baby daughter.
As the Farfarer dived towards the Nexus, Lupino was jumping up and down with excitement. "Stop rabbiting around," Renato said. Lupino just stared at him. The moment the ship landed, Lupino leapt off the ship. As Lupino vanished into the wilds of the Nexus, Renato vaguely remembered Lupino had a baby daughter, didn't he? And he told her mother he was going out to get some Easter eggs, and he'd never come back. But Renato was relieved not to carry the core anymore. He was already feeling better. And who knows, maybe this time Lupino would get it right. And if Renato could take the outpost, he'd have access to all the Empire's communications in this sector. Right? Don't look down, he thought. Around the room yelling,
Oh yeah, that's how we do it.
It was something he liked to do, but only after he'd killed all the witnesses.
Renato caught his breath. His joints still hurt, but he couldn't feel the poison in his system anymore. He'd let the armature slip out of his hands to save his friend Lupino. Of course he had to let Lupino take the core. The rebellion needed every man doing his duty. And the rabbit would be no good taking on an Imperial outpost, right? If they didn't want their things broken, they really ought to make them stronger. The rebellion's time was running out. The intel he would collect from the outpost would give the rebels a small edge in the final battle. But the real game changer was the core. That was in Lupino's paws. Bernardo hated playing second fiddle. Hey, a workbench! He could try out his new bling. Bernardo took the outpost with a song in his heart. Soon, he was stuffing his sack with key messages from and to the fleet. Then the far speaker toad chortled a new message. The observatory had been sacked by ravens. Lupino and all the scientists had been taken to the mountains. Why? Why had he trusted Lupino again? And now the Empire had the core. Bernardo hailed the rebel base to warn them. But their far speaker didn't crouch back. Was the base under attack too? Going on at the base. But he knew what the ravens would do to Lupino if Bernardo didn't rescue him fast. Well, actually, he wasn't exactly sure. It kind of depended on whether Lupino was a traitor or not. Bernardo just couldn't bring himself to believe that. What are old friends for, if not to need rescuing every few days? Bernardo felt a twinge of doubt. Should he have gone to the base? No. Logically, wherever they'd taken Lupino was probably where they took the core, right? Oh, why couldn't Lupino have just, for once, not got himself captured? Was that too much to ask? He shouldn't be too hard on the rabbit. No, he meant well, and he was insanely brave. You had to admire that. Hoped his hook didn't break. Come over here. The platform used a hybrid propulsion system fueled by anti-gravity and wishful thinking. Boom! Where were they holding Lapino anyway? There was no sign of him or the ravens who'd captured him. Just rocks and snow and the usual scouts. No sign of the core either. Was this a wild rabbit chase? Oh, trust Lapino to screw up even getting captured. But what was this rebellion for anyway? Well, Lapino was a useless goof, but he was a friend. If friends didn't matter anymore, what was the point of winning this war? Couldn't they have put in an elevator? Or a giant eagle? Or something? But there were still so many games to play, Renato thought as he died. There was blood on this one, so it hadn't saved its owner.
Truth was, Renato really liked the sound his sword made in the air. report about the intel he'd gathered from the outpost. Who would he bring it to? Who even had time to read it?
At the end of the mountain path, Bernardo came to a clearing. There was a campfire, raven feathers, and... oh, Lupino's lucky deck of cards. Well, that wasn't good. Bernardo hoped Lupino had not tried to cheat his captors at cards. Ravens were much better than weasels at counting, and they had a very poor sense of humor.
Then, he saw what he had hoped never to see. Fresh scraps of rabbit fur. Ragged and bloody, ravens would eat anything.
By Grabthar's hammer! Bernardo screamed at the sky. I will avenge you!
The rebels had assembled their fleet. Ahead, the clouds were dark with Imperial ships. If he could reach the Emperor before the rest of the rebels did, maybe he could settle this without too much bloodshed. He set sail, and the Farfarer shot forward.
Poor Lupino had never been a great warrior. The mad rabbit was good for a lark and a laugh. And a pint. The thought of ravens eating him made Bernardo furious. The way they were eating up the land. The way the Emperor was eating up the people with his new, bloodthirsty ways. He would make them all pay. Wow! The sword felt even colder. I wonder what happens if I go that way. He had given up every objective to save his friend. He had given up the armature, the core, the gem, and even Zenobia. He loved Lupino, he realized. And now the rabbit was gone. A hero looks out for his friends, even when they're gone. He would send Lupino an honor guard of ravens to serve him in the halls of the valiant. He would avenge him. That could go rather well, actually.
Going to hurt. Actually, it already did. once met a pirate captain. He used hooks to get around his ship. Oh, what was his name again?
Finally, he reached the Emperor's ship. And there was Lapino, surrounded by ravens. He was alive! They'd eaten some other rabbit. "I'll save you!" he shouted with joy and flung himself at the ravens. "Oh, you shouldn't have," said Lapino when the last raven was down.
Bernardo threw his arms around his best friend. "I had to come. I love you, man."
"You really, really shouldn't have," said Lapino. And Bernardo felt a rather sharp pain in his back. As he collapsed, Lapino took the dagger out of Bernardo's back and wiped it off on Bernardo's sleeve. "Why, you always have to be the hero. Brave Bernardo, epic Bernardo, super sexy Bernardo, and I'm sick of it."
As Bernardo died, all he could think was,
Damn it. Fooled again. And he hadn't learned anything new this time. He'd done the same thing twice, yet expected a different outcome.